I'm going to start with you. This is a fantastic performance.
Thank you.
This is absolutely fantastic. Where did you find the level of difficulty dealing with just the intense nature of the filming and the dialogue itself?
It's, you know, I keep saying this to people, and I'm not sure if they're believing me, but this was my first movie, and so I didn't have anything to compare it to. I thought it was absolutely normal that I was, you know, all of the difficulties we sort of went through, I thought that was just how you made a film. Like, I never felt like the language was alienating. I actually thought that it was something that really soothed me and spoke to me, and I understood, like, kind of the undulations of how it went, and the costumes and everything of, you know, how Rob really built this world for us just made it really easy to play in there and to really believe it and to commit to this sort of idea of, like, this is my life, this is how I do things, and this is who I am. And it was just marvelous.
Oh, yeah, it really is. And first film, that's risky. That's risky for a filmmaker to take on, especially this intense of a film. How did you know?
Well, you know, Anya had something special. She clearly, like, couldn't be a good Puritan. And she has a very enigmatic quality. Like, I can, you know, stick, you know, the lens 2 inches from her nose, and you don't quite know what she's thinking, but you want to as an audience, which is very crucial. And yeah, and the thing is, like, you know, people ask a lot about, like, in general, like, how is it with the language, because I was really fortunate to, you know, be able to cast whoever I wanted in this film. Like, you know, anyone who couldn't do the language, I didn't cast. So people who, you know, they just understood it, you know, everyone, down to Lucas, you know, the 6-year-old.
I like what you do with this film, and I think it's kind of unusual. The way you build dread, there's scenes where the score builds, everything builds, but it's such a simple climactic, almost anticlimactic, but it builds towards the final act. What was your thinking, and was that always the intention of having that kind of slow dread?
No, I want to have the, you know, like I mean, a slow burn never came into my head, that word, but that's what everyone uses. Happy birthday, that's fine with me. But, you know, like, I wanted, like, I was a very anxious kid who always was kind of, like, feeling, like, guilty and sick to my stomach, and I wanted to, like, create that oppressive quality. And, you know, one simple technique is you just try to end every single scene with, oh no, you know, and if each oh no tops the last one, then you can kind of, you know.
What drew you to witchcraft and telling this specific story? I know you've been answering that a lot, but it is a fascinating story behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from New England, and New England's past was always really part of my consciousness. Like, that sounds a little precious, but the thing is, like, if you've been to a rural New England town, you know, you see all these dilapidated colonial farmhouses, graveyards in the middle of the woods. I mean, like, clearly the white pine forest behind my house was haunted with the past, you know, and for whatever reason, you know, which is, you know, I can, you know, see my therapist about it, but I've had, you know, nightmares about witches since I was, you know, forever through adulthood, and so having that, you know, that inside me, I think made it so I could do a horror movie that was personal.
What about you? Did you have that kind of, growing up, did you have fears of the unknown, or were you a horror kind of girl?
Well, this is kind of funny. I wasn't very fearful. I would go into the woods looking for witches. Like, I wasn't afraid. I was obsessed with, and I still am, I love magic, and I was obsessed with this kind of idea that, you know, in the forest behind my house or something like that, there are fairies or, you know, witches or whatever, and so I'd just
go out.
This
is why she would be a bad Puritan.
I'd be a terrible Puritan. But I love magic, and so I'd always be, I had the sort of opposite of that, in the sense of, I don't know, the word witch to me has never felt frightening. It's always felt very sort of like, oh, okay, like, let's do it, sort of thing.
You both have had pretty impressive careers. What drew you to The Witch and taking this tiny project on?
From my point of view, all about the scripts. All about the scripts and the director. He sent me the script and a lookbook of some visual ideas of what he was looking for the film. And it just immediately struck me. I was immediately struck by the dilemmas that this character is in as a father in 1630 taking his family across the Atlantic to set up in the US. And the kind of leap of faith that is, I don't know, it resonated quite a lot with me, just being a father of similar age kids, and the don't know, the day-to-day leap of being a self-employed actor. It kind of resonates with what was happening with the family. So I immediately it just clicked.
Yeah, for me it was the script as well. I just thought, I've never read anything like this. It was like stepping into a completely different world, so real and visceral and raw. And then I was like, wow, I love this script. And then I went for an audition. Ralph had been cast already, and I auditioned with Ralph, and we were talking about this the other day. We kind of improvised a scene that's in the film, and we were literally
Physically shaking.
The chemistry was great. It just worked. And meeting Rob as well, he is amazing man. I've never met anyone like him. He's so, I don't know what the word is.
He's inspiring just by his drive and his love of the material, and his interest and the depths of the research and the care and love that he has for the period and what he's working on. It just inspires you, blows you away.
Yeah, the script is so unusual.
Yeah.
I mean, it's near Shakespearean. I mean, how do you wrap your hand around that and getting those words out and making it work?
Well, it's not so bad for us, I think, because we both studied Shakespeare and things, and I've done Shakespeare, I've done Greek tragedies, I've done things like that in theatre, so it was so beautifully written, it just flowed. It
wasn't in any way a barrier. I think
No.
it sounds almost facetiously simplistic to say, but that's just the way the characters speak. It felt right, it felt right that they should have that kind of biblical kind of fire and brimstone edge to the language, and it really helped.
Well, the history too behind it. I mean, there's so much history. And you were saying he does all this research into it. What about you guys? Did you kind of delve into? Were there stories that affected you that helped you get into these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I just started looking at, like, Rob sent us a lot of research that we could look at, and then one of the things I did was, because Catherine does a lot of praying, constantly praying, and I didn't, it just said Catherine praying at the sea, and I thought, okay, I don't want to mumble nothing, and also I have to be very careful if I say anything. So I actually went back to I became obsessed with this Puritan prayer book that you can get, and literally went through and go, okay, which Puritan prayer would suit this scene? And I learned just little bits, but I found, went through prayer, okay, this would suit when she's pleading about, William, or this would. So this is what I did, and I found prayers. I got slightly obsessed with Puritan prayers, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about you, playing the matriarch of this family?
It's less of that kind of research. It was the script and the characters, like I say, resonated very much in a very modern way for me as well. That the period work was kind of almost done for us with the amazing costume, all the work that Rob had done in all the various different departments. So, from my point of view, it was about making that real connection with the humans, with the people, rather than the historical detail had been researched for me in a sense.
And I had to really look at what it would be like to be a Puritan mother.
Yeah.
And, the kind of modern day thinking, or the way you communicate, or the things you would say just weren't. There was a lot of rules of how Catherine would be as a mother, a Puritan mother. And to be honest, I'm not a great Puritan in the movie, because I allow so much to affect me. I should be accepting of these things and accepting of God's will. And a lot of the issue for Catherine, why she's so can't cope, is because the baby wasn't baptised. So for me, this was a big issue between us, because you'd put it off, and I wanted him baptised, and I feel he's in this hell, and I just can't live with it. I can't. And then there's issues with Thomasin becoming a woman, and I'm losing my womanhood, and so many
and the roles
things.
within the Puritan family, and the way that the mother is, or the wife is in charge of the home, the domestic.
However, I always have to, should refer to my husband always.
Who is God's appointed, within the family on earth.
So there was a lot of things to think about to make sure you didn't be modern even when you were speaking and things. You had to be very careful of the way you moved or looked, or things like that. It was pretty specific.
But again, still to to do that, find those rules, but find a way to relate to a modern audience, relate these characters and these relationships they had.
And it is, I think it is, because even though it's so period and it's a specific time, it is a family falling apart, you know, and all the dynamics and the blaming and the kind of things that start going on, the suspicions. To me, it feels like a really modern story that just happens to have characters that are, you know, I don't know how to explain it.